Hello folks, today we are going to see how to build Hadoop from the source with native binaries for Windows. Before proceeding further, understand that the current official binary releases of Hadoop, they do not ship with any of the required EXEs like WinUtils or any of the required DLLs to execute Hadoop on Windows. To overcome this issue, we have to build our own version of Hadoop with the native binaries. So the steps we are going to look here, they are tested on Windows 7 and 2008 Server R2. So as you can see, so let's get into the required software. Okay, so there are in total 9 various softwares that are required to be downloaded and kept on your Windows 7 or 2008 Server R2. So first one, as you can see, it is the Hadoop source. So I've actually given the URLs so that you can copy paste it or type it and download it. Second important most requirement is to download the Microsoft .NET Framework for standalone. So I have downloaded the offline installer. You can go ahead with the online installer, but that's going to take time to download and install. So the third important one is to download the Windows SDK 7 installer from any of these URLs. So in my case, again, I went ahead and downloaded the offline installer. So it's easier and faster. The fourth one is to download the JDK as per your platform requirement. The fifth one is to download and install 7-zip, which is again open source. The sixth one is to download Maven 3.x or later from this maven.apache.org. Seventh one is to download the protocol buffer 250 or later. So in this example, in this demo, I have gone ahead with 2.5.0. The eighth one is to download CMake 350 from this particular URL. And the last one is to download the Cygwin installer from cygwin.com. Let's start with the various software installation steps, starting with 7-zip, JDK, .NET Framework for Windows SDK 7, Maven, Protocol Buffer 250, Cygwin, CMake, and finally building Hadoop and editing the configuration files. And we'll also see how to copy files to the HDFS on Windows and how to execute the sample MapReduce program on Windows. So let's get started. Before moving further, a quick check on the programs that you want to make sure to remove from your Windows 7 or 2008 Server R2. Open your control panel programs and features and go to the uninstall programs. There, if you see any of the Windows C++ redistributables and Microsoft Visual C++ 2006, 2010, x64 or x86 distributions, or if you see Microsoft .NET Framework 4 extended or Microsoft .NET Frame 4 client profile, make sure to go ahead and remove all of those. So as you can see, my Windows 7 doesn't come preloaded with any of these, so I'm good here. Okay, so first one is to install 7-zip. So just double click on that and choose the default destination and go ahead and install. Okay, so once the 7-zip is done, let's go ahead and install the JDK. So now let's start installing our JDK. Just double click on that exe. So click on next. So by default select everything, and I'm going to copy the default location. Let's not change the default location here. So go ahead and install the JRE in the default location. Now our JDK and JRE are installed. Let's go ahead and close this. So the next step is to set our Java home. So for this, what you can do is you can right click on your computer properties on your desktop, or you can go to the control panel. So in the control panel, you can go to the system and you can go to edit system environment variables. So here you can click on the environment variables. So under system variables, hit new and let's create a new variable called Java underscore home. And the variable path would be your location of JDK Java Home. Okay, so you can give the full path or you can just give the shortcut as there's a space here, something like this, program one. So this refers to the program files. Now let's go to the path variable and add this path. Just select the path, hit edit, go to the end of line, put the semicolon, Java home /bin, hit OK. Now let's close this and let's open the command prompt and check if we are able to successfully install our Java. Type java -version. Okay, as you can see, we have installed 180.191. So let's move on to the next step where we have to install the .NET 4 framework. Just double click on that. As I said, I am using an offline installer so that it's faster than the online installer. Just click on the agreed terms and install. So as you can see, installation of .NET framework is going to take some time depending on your resources. So please be patient. So as you can see, our .NET framework installation is complete. Okay, now let's start with the fourth step of installing Windows 7 SDK. So as you can see, I have the ISO file. Let's extract it with 7-zip. So go to the extracted folder and double click on the setup. So go ahead with the default locations and similarly don't change the installation options. Whatever default we have, it's good. So this Windows 7 SDK is going to install all the required tools, compilers, which are required for us. Okay, so as you can see now, our Windows SDK has been successfully installed. Go ahead and click on finish. So once you hit the finish button, you will be prompted for a library location. So you can leave it as it is and click cancel. And now moving on to the next step of extracting and configuring Maven. So extract Maven with 7-zip. So let's move on to the next step of extracting Maven and configuring it. So let's extract here. So what I'll do is I'll just take this folder, go to the C location and paste it there. So now let's configure this into the system variables. Go to the control panel, system variables, edit the system variables. Go to the environment variables. Under system variables, let's create a new variable called M2 home and give the path of Apache Maven. Hit OK. Now let's go to the path variable and edit it. Semicolon. M2 home/bin. Hit OK. Now let's verify if our Maven installation is successful. Open the command prompt. Now let's type mvn-b. So this should give you the correct Maven version. So as you can see, it's able to detect the JRE Java and also it's going to put out the Windows OS version. Let's move on to the sixth step of extracting the protocol buffer. Let's extract it and just copy this location into Windows C drive. Just copy it here and make sure to copy the path. Go to the Windows environment variable. Let's edit the path variable. Go to the end, semicolon, C colon backslash, and the path of it. Click OK. Now let's test our version, protocol buffer version. Type protoc hyphen version. So it's going to give you the version, which means we are good. Let's move on to the next step of installing Cygwin. Double click on the Cygwin installer. So here you can select install from internet, or if you have the files locally, you can select install from local directory. So in my case, I'm going to install from internet. Hit next. Select the default location. You can select the local package directory if you want. Hit next. So it's going to download the list of packages. So select one of the mirrors. So here I'm not going to change the defaults. Just hit next and it's going to download and install the packages. So go to the system variables again, modify the path, edit, semicolon, C Cygwin 64/bin. So now let's verify if our Cygwin installation is successful. Let's go back to the command prompt and type uname-a. Let's go back to the 8th step, which is installing CMake. So double click on the CMake. So you can choose add CMake to the system path for all users, which I'm going to select, or only for the current user. Just hit next. Okay, so our installation of CMake is finished. Let's go back to our command line and verify if CMake installation is successful. Type cmake-version. Okay, so we have it. So we are done with the first 8 steps. Now let's go back and do the final step and compile Hadoop itself. So as you can see, I have Hadoop 292.src. I'm going to extract it. So let's extract the tar as well. Okay, so I have extracted all of these. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just rename to Hadoop-src and copy it to the Windows location, which is C. So what I'm trying to do here is make sure Windows doesn't hit the limit of the maximum file name, because my previous location of installation directory has a long file name and I don't want the installer to fail or the compilation to fail. Okay, so as the copy is in progress, we need to make one more change to the system variable, which will be used by the compiler itself. So go to system variables, hit new, and then type platform. So make sure P is caps, and my platform is x64. I'm going to type x64. If you are on Win32 platform, what you can do is you can type Win32 just like that. Okay, so if you're not sure where to find whether you're using Win32 or x64, you can go to your system. Okay, so here on under the system type, it's going to show you whether you're using 64-bit OS or Win32. Okay, now let's start building Hadoop. So we need to open Windows 7 SDK. So go to Start, All Programs, Microsoft Windows SDK 7.1, and in that click Windows SDK 7.1 command prompt. So now let's navigate to our location where we extracted Hadoop or copied Hadoop. So mine is under C, Hadoop source. Now type mbn package -p dist, comma, native win -d skip tests -d tar. So what we are doing is we are asking Maven to look at the POM, build the distribution for the native Windows, and I'm going to skip the tests because that's going to take time, and finally give us the tar file. So make sure you are also connected to the internet. So depending on your internet speed, it might take anywhere between 20 to 40 minutes, as Maven is going to download various artifacts from the internet and then build the entire tar file. Okay, so after close to an hour 20 minutes, my build was successful. So you can see the build success message. So let's go back and check our files. Let's go to our Hadoop SRC, Hadoop distribution, target. So here you can see we have Hadoop 2.9.2.tar.gz. So let's try to extract it. Now take a look into the file system here. So let me open this with 7-zip. So let's get into the bin here. So here you can see now we are able to see the Windows specific files like hadoop.dll, hadoop.lib, and libwinutils.lib and windows winutils.exe. So now we'll copy this, go back to C, put it here. So once it's here, let's also extract it. So let's extract the tar file here. Now the Hadoop binary is extracted. Let's cut it and put into C location, and let's remove this tar. Anyway, have a copy of it. Okay, so this is our final so here is our final build, folks. Okay, so now let's close this one. So as the build is complete, now let's go and modify all the required Hadoop configuration files. Now let's go to etc Hadoop. Let's open the hadoop-env.sh. We need to add Hadoop home also to the environment variables, where it's just environment variables. Let me copy the bin location here. Add a new variable Hadoop_home and see your Hadoop location and bin. Hit OK. Okay. Now let's go back to our etc folder, Hadoop, and we already opened hadoop-env.sh. Sorry, hadoop-env.command. So once you have set Hadoop home, Hadoop config directory. So these are config directory, then yarn config location. which is inside the Hadoop conf directory, then the entire path. Okay, so let's also set the Java home here. So second one, let's edit core site.xml. So in that go to configuration section and paste this particular property, name FS default name and HDFS port number. Next one is HDFS site.xml. So in this, you just need to put the DFS replication factor, and we can just leave it to 1. And finally, let's edit the slaves and just add one just line localhost. It's already there. You don't need to make any change here. Okay, so an important point to remember is that the default configuration puts the HDFS metadata and data files under /tmp or c:/tmp on the current drive. For your first test setup, you can just leave it as default. So next one, important one is mapred site.xml. Just copy mapred site XML template and rename it to mapred XML. So this is the configuration. It looks good. Let's make changes to yarn site.xml. So here, let's put this. So just make sure to add the resource manager address, yarn server resource manager expire interval, the node manager address, node manager auxiliary services, node manager auxiliary services dot map reduce dot shuffle dot class, and finally the remote app log directory and the other log directories plus listener bind address for the MapReduce app manager, then the client service bind address, the log aggregation enable true or false, then aggregation retain seconds, then finally the yarn application class path. So just make sure to copy all of these without any mistake. Otherwise, you will not be able to execute other commands after this. So there's a huge value. Okay, one more thing to remember is to put the name node and data node directories. So once your Hadoop daemons are going to start up, the name node is going plus the data nodes, they're going to store the data here. So just make sure to make this adjustments in hdfs So once these are done, uh, run command prompt, right click on it and select run as administrator. So without this, you will not be able to execute some of the commands because internally it's going to create some symbolic links and you are going to have problems. So once you have opened the command line, just execute this following command to initialize the environment variables. That is Hadoop env command. So once that is done, next step is to format our file system or Hadoop file system. So just make sure you enter the proper commands here. Okay. So as you see, it is storing the image file in our path what we have created in hdfs site.xml. So now let's start our name node and data nodes. So Hadoop prefix has been start -dfs command. So this is going to execute or start two windows, one for name node and the second one for the data node, as you can see side by side. Okay, so the startup is complete, so no errors in both of them. Now let's try to put a file into HDFS. So what I've done is I'm going to put the README file from Hadoop 292. Okay, and here is command to do that. So this is going to push that readme.txt from your local file system to HDFS. And now let's do a listing of HDFS file system with this command, hdfs dfs-ls/. So as you can see the command, the data is here. You can also do a cat of it. Okay, so this output from HDFS. Okay, so once this is done, let's start our yarn processes or daemons for resource manager and the node manager. And again, this is going to start two windows, one for resource manager, second for the node manager. Let both of them start up. Okay, so as you can see, the startup is done for both of them. Now let's execute a sample file, a MapReduce file from the examples from within the MapReduce. So we are going to execute this Hadoop MapReduce examples 292 and specifically the word count program inside it on our readme.txt, which we copied into HDFS. So just make sure to put this command properly. Once this is done, just execute. So here, as you can see, this is my input to the word count program and it's going to write to HDFS output/out. And as you can see, this is my job ID. So as you can see, our MapReduce program has started. So map is 100%, then reduce is going to start. So it's also done. Great. So as you can see, we are able to successfully execute our first MapReduce program on Windows. Okay, so as you can see, you have the map file system counters, job counters, and the MapReduce counters. Okay, so let's go and do a ls on the output location where we should be able to see part file. Yes. Now let's do a cat of it. So as you understand, there's a word count program. It's going to count the number of occurrences of each of the word from the input file from HDFS. And this output, as you can see, the word was found 8 times, this was found 3 times, and so on. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel